The free shock is going to come off right now, and just like that, the circuitry unfortunately does end up being focus sash, and just...
Are you serious?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is TheUzigunner, and I'm here to bring to you all the Week 6 of the Ultimate Battle League, where I'm going to be going up against none other than Serene Grace, who is the coach of the Chicago Shaymin-Skies. Very excited to face her. She was here for the Season 1 of the UBL, and obviously I have no intentions of underestimating her despite her record showing otherwise, because as they say, pride comes before the fall, and you have to face every single opponent like they are the toughest sons of... I'm not gonna say that word because I don't want to risk my chances of this channel growing. So regardless, as far as my matchup goes and as far as her matchup goes, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that I do have the edge on this one, but at the same time she does of course have threats like Cresselia, and especially the combo of Tapu Bulu and Hawlucha, which definitely mollywop my entire squad if I don't play my cards carefully with them. So on that note, it definitely gave me a decently hard time, but overall I was able to come up with something that I think was good enough for her. And yeah, on that note, shoutouts to Styx of the Token Minorities for helping me for this one, because honestly, we had the match on a time period where I had to like spend the majority of my days working on my assignments and preparing for my class test, which was all due on that particular week we faced in. So on that note, he really did help me out a lot on this one. I pretty much just made my adjustments here and there based on my own preferences. So seriously, thank you very much, Styx. Obviously, guys, if you don't know his channel, be sure to check it out. He is a part of the Token Minorities, which, by the way, your boy's already in. So yeah. Regardless, let me show you guys what I got right now. First things first, we got Blackheart, aka the Cure in Black, rocking the Free Shock, Fusion Bolt, Roost, and Ice Beam. Now, just like last week in general, we definitely are bringing the same set this time around, because mainly due to the fact that Cure in Black really just makes every single team have a hard time in general, because yeah, ICMZ Free Shock is ridiculously hard to switch into unless you have unless of course you have some very specific Pokemon that resist the times 4, but even then it does also have other coverage to make sure that it beats that thing 1v1. So on that regard, this is definitely the best bring here. Her best switch impossible would have to be the Empoleon, which I can easily whittle down with Fusion Bolt, and obviously the Ice Beam is there because it's my secondary stab. And as far as the investment that you see before you, it's mainly here because this is pretty much my only switch impossible to circuitry, which from a matchup perspective does actually mess me up big time. So on that regard, that bulk in both HP and SpDef should definitely help me come a long way. So there's that. But anyways, next up we got Big Darius, the debuting regular Alakazam, rocking the Focus Sash with Counter, Psychic, Focus Blast, and Encore. And this set in particular is actually fan-freaking-tastic against her because the only Pursuit Trap mon that she has would have to be the Alolan Muck. So if say she tries to Pursuit Trap me or knock me off or anything, I will be able to immediately knock it out knock it out on the exact same turn, courtesy of a counter. So in that regard, I'm actually doing pretty fine on this one. And at the same time, this is also one of my main ways of making sure that Hawlucha does not end up getting too out of hand, because yeah, it really is a huge problem against me. So yeah, I actually changed the move Encore for Toxic because regrettably enough, you cannot run counter with Encore for some reason. It was a Gen 1, Gen 5-ish thing or some other crap. And it was kind of unfortunate, but either way, Toxic was my best alternative for something like Cresselia and so on. So either way, my main plan is to make sure that I don't pop my Focus Sash until that Hawlucha is gone. So yeah. Anyways, next up we have a double Giro on the Mega Aggron with this nice and clean heat set, rocking Curse, Heavy Slam, Rest, and Sleep Talk. Now, as far as the matchup goes, you can pretty much understand that she really does not deal with this set well at all. The only possible switch in for this particular mon would have to be the Empoleon, which, as you already know, doesn't have any sort of reliable recovery. Unless, of course, it's Z Haze or something like that, and you already know that I have the ICMZ with me. So in that regard, after Mega Charizard X ends up biting the dust as well as Empoleon, there is absolutely nothing stopping this thing from just going straight in and just pretty much cleaning up the game. So in that regard, that's definitely a very useful asset for me, and was pretty much the first thing that came to my mind as I started building, as you know, I saw the matchup for the first time. So yeah. Next up, we got Wuji Shang, aka the Choice Scarf Infernape, rocking U-Turn, Flare Blitz, Close Combat, and Punishment, mainly due to the fact that honestly it was first Zoroark, but later on I figured that Infernape would have to be the more better bring here for me particularly, mainly due to the fact that, you know, it gives me that nice speed, and at the same time Flare Blitz, Close Combat, all these moves in general are pretty hard to switch into, and pretty much the only thing that she has would have to be that Cresselia of hers, which I know for a fact I will be able to knock it out courtesy of my black card, aka my Cure in Black, as well as my Mega Aggron. I'm sorry for that momentary pause there, guys. I don't know why, but I felt like I was hearing myself or something from my microphone. But anyways, that's pretty much all there is to it. Punishment is here to make sure that if our Cresselia does end up going out of hand, like say +6 or some other crap, I will be able to get a lot of damage off on her courtesy of this punishment before going out into my Cure in Black and then just popping my ICMC and just saying sayonara to that muchacho. So yes. For my final two Pokemon, we have Zardex, which is my Eviolite Rhydon, rocking Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Rock Blast, and Toxic. This is a very self-explanatory bring to begin with because this is my main counter to Mega Charizard X, which otherwise just pretty much runs circles around my squad because yeah, that's what Mega Charizard X does, and while I do have things like Alomomola and so on, that thing doesn't necessarily deal with Zardex that well, especially if it has some Belly Drum or some other crap. So yeah, in that regard, this is definitely a very solid bring here. It also helps me set up rocks and, you know, give more leeway to towards my Mega Aggron set, and obviously Toxic to make sure that her main switch-ins, which I assume would have to be her Tapu Bulu, the Cresselia, and so on, are immediately put on timer, which is fan-freaking-tastic. Now, last but not least, we have Gur, aka the Crobat, with Brave Bird, Roost, Defog, and U-Turn. Initially, this was Alomomola, but after I figured that, you know what, Tapu Bulu would honestly be a very free switch into this thing, and I don't necessarily want to rely on Skull Burns for this particular mon, I am much better running this particular set, and at the same time, really just considering how much limited time I have, I wanted to build a squad that ensured the fact that I would get this match done as soon as possible. So in that regard, that's exactly what Crobat did, and yeah, it's physically defensive to make sure that I take on Hawlucha pretty well, as well as Tapu Bulu. Like Choice Bandit, Tapu Bulu actually has a 62.5% chance to knock me out, or 75% chance. I don't really recall, but the fact is, it's still a roll. And obviously, like Tapu Bulu without any sort of, you know, boosting item is not able to knock this thing out, or even expert belt and so on. So that's pretty much all there is to it for this team. Hope you all enjoyed, and with that, let us move on into the game, shall we? Alright guys, we are back right now, and as you can see, this is what my good friend Serene Grace brought against me, and just from Team Preview alone, I am very much relieved to see absolutely no
My name is Jeff.
Cresselia and Tapu Bulu whatsoever, particularly the Tapu Bulu, because pair that with Hawlucha and you have me screaming Bloody Mary. So yes, I'm very much surprised to see the latter not even show up, honestly, because with the combination of Hawlucha, it really is a very huge problem against me, and just not seeing it here for this particular matchup makes me more wary of Hawlucha because I don't really know what to expect from it. And as for Cresselia, obviously I have very limited ways of whittling this thing down to the point where I'd rely on Mega Aggron spamming Curse before knocking it out with Heavy Slam and so on, as well as getting a well-timed Z free shot for my Cure in Black. So in that regard, I'm very much relieved to see it not come for this match. And as far as threads go, I'm very much worried about the circuitry because honestly, if I do allow this thing to set up a free tail glow on my face, I more or less am guaranteeing it a free kill, which is definitely something I don't necessarily want for me. But either way, I'm very much surprised to see a Ditto for this matchup too, because honestly, I didn't expect this thing at all. I figured that she had definitely much more, you know, better threats to bring against me than that, but either way, it's definitely something I need to be more wary about. But regardless, it should be fine. And as far as leads go, I figured that Infernape would honestly be the best one because it matches up very well against the vast majority of her squad. So on that note, I'm going to lead off with that, and with that, let us start the game, shall we? So I am going to be challenged by none other than Serene Grace, who surprisingly enough looks a lot like her boyfriend in this game, as she is going to lead off with her Arya, the Ditto. I am going to lead off with my Wuji Shang, the Infernape, and from turn 1, obviously my play is to definitely go for a U-turn because I don't because assuming she ends up outspeeding me, I will be able to outslow her the next turn and go for a U-turn, ensuring the fact that I will have the momentum on my side. But unfortunately, I am the one who ends up winning the speed tie, so I'm pretty much forced to go out into my Crobat because I don't necessarily want anything else to take a close combat to the face. And you all already know by now that Crobat just eats a close combat like it's nobody's business. So she is going to go straight for a U-turn. You know what? I am perfectly chill with that, as she is going to go straight out into her Empoleon. Honestly, I could care very less about this thing. She reveals to have the air balloon, which I assume was for my Rhydon, but anyways, it don't matter because I'm just gonna pop that son of a gun here and now with this U-turn, and this is looking nice and clean for us because I'm going to predict her to want to set up her rocks right now, which ensures me the fact that I won't have to worry about getting Skull burned with my Cure and Black. So on that note, I'm going to go straight out into the Black Heart as she is going to go straight for her Stealth Rocks like I expected her to, which is honestly fine really, as I have absolutely nothing stopping me from going straight for a Fusion Bolt. Look at her switch-ins, she has absolutely nothing other than going for Protect, which is pretty much just delaying the inevitable, if you would. So, yeah, I'm just gonna go for another Fusion Bolt right now. She chooses to stay in, and you're going to see that Fusion Bolt do so much damage to her. And as it does, takes over half of her HP, which reveals the fact that she is a physically defensive Empoleon, because no chance in hell is an Empoleon just supposed to take that fine. But anyways, she is going to roar me out, and unfortunately I go out into the worst thing possible, which would have to be my Rhydon. Obviously, I don't have a Death Wish, so I'm going to hard swap out into my Crobat. Obviously, the other play would have been going out into my Cure and Black, but assuming that Skull has a 30% chance, which it does, if she were to get that against me, that would be absolutely devastating and just pretty much cripple Cure and Black by a long margin. So on that note, that definitely was something I didn't want to risk, and considering the fact that she also didn't bring Tapu Bulu with her, I won't necessarily have to worry that much about her Halucha, because I do have my Alakazam in the back, so it should be fine really. But my sorry about that. My play now would have to be just going straight for a Brave Bird. Assuming I went for Defog in the last turn, which I most likely did, I'm just gonna go straight for a Brave Bird right now, see exactly what she wants to do. Try to get as much damage off as possible, as you're gonna see that do absolutely pitiful damage. She's going to get a good chunk of damage off me, courtesy of the Skull, which, you know what, I'm honestly fine with. I am just going to go for a Defog right now. Sorry about that, I didn't necessarily catch the turns, which is fine really, as she is going to go straight for a Skull again. And unfortunately, you're going to see that not be able to knock me out, but instead snag a burn on me, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, it should be fine really. But my play now is as clear as day, and that is to go for a Ruse the following turn and put her in a position where I make her realize that I am not leaving the field unless Stealth Rocks go out of my sight. So in that regard, I'm going to go straight for a Roost again, expecting her to go for a Stealth Rocks, and on the very next turn, I am obviously going to go straight for a Defog, because under no circumstances do I want my Cure and Black to come in and take all that damage from Stealth Rocks, because honestly, it is a very obnoxious move to begin with. So, I'm going to go straight for a Defog right now. Goodbye, Stealth Rocks, you won't be missed, as she is going to go straight for a Skull like I expected her to. I'm praying that this knocks me out, and thankfully she is going to be able to achieve just that, courtesy of a critical hit. Whether that killed through a critical hit or not, I don't necessarily know. But what I do know is that out comes Big Black Kyurem. She has no switch-ins for this thing at all, and I have absolutely nothing stopping me from going for a Fusion Bolt. So she's going to go straight for Protect again. Honestly, I could care less, because she's pretty much just delaying the inevitable. And realizing that, Serene is going to choose to let her Empoleon stay in and bite the dust, as I'm going to go straight for the Fusion Bolt. And just like that, down goes the Empoleon, and we are looking nice and clean, ladies and gentlemen. So, she is going to go straight out into her Balerion, the Mega Charizard X. I don't necessarily have a Death Wish, so I'm obviously going to opt to go hard out into my main switch-in, which would have to be my Rhydon, as she is going to get that Mega Evolution off. And you already know that no matter what Charizard does, I will be able to beat this thing 1v1 because that's how Rhydon is built, really. But surprisingly enough, she's going to reveal a Toxic, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, I could very much care less about this, considering the fact that Rhydon is here to do two things. A, set up Stealth Rocks, and B, be the ultimate counter to Mega Charizard X. And as long as I am able to do one of the two, I am a happy camper. So on that note, I'm going to go straight for my Stealth Rocks. And considering the fact that she has absolutely no defogger on her squad other than a Charizard, which I know for a fact that is not going to be the case, I should be fine. So yeah, she's going to make an aggressive play into her circuitry, which, you know what, props to her, as this definitely is going to force me to hard swap out into my black card, because honestly that's my main switch into this thing to begin with, hence the SPDF investment and all that stuff. So yeah, she is going to actually reveal the Tail Glow right now, which is very much worrisome for me. And now I'm pretty much just put me in a position where I'm forced to spam my Z move here, because obviously Ice Beam does not kill, but Z Freeze Shock most certainly does. So for the second consecutive week in a row, we're going to be doing the same old dance, and Kyurem Black is going to take in the nice and menacing aura just to unleash the most devastating move in this game. And I pray that she does not end up being Focus Sash, because if that does end up being the case, she can actually knock me out with the Dazzling Gleam. So the Freeze Shock is going to come off right now, and just like that, the circuitry unfortunately does end up being Focus Sash, and just
Are you serious?
she reveals a Thunderbolt. She did not even have Dazzling Gleam with her, for Pete's sake, which is something I definitely did not expect under any sort of circumstance whatsoever. So yeah, I'm just gonna stay in and nab my kill now, courtesy of this Ice Beam. I'm still very much surprised to see no Dazzling Gleam, because if she did have it, my Kyurem Black was pretty much just pushing up daisies. But anyways, this is definitely going to work out for me, as my threat is going to continue to stay for this particular matchup. But either way, my play now would have to be definitely, I assume, going out in my Mega Aggron, because I'm pretty much guaranteed to wall this Kyurem Black anytime, any place, anywhere, even without Mega Evolving to begin with. So yeah, she's gonna go straight for an Ice Beam. This is where I thank God I didn't have Earth Power on my Kyurem Black, because if I did, that would actually be pretty bad. But you know what, it's fine. What I'm going to do now would have to be taking this as the glorious opportunity to get my Mega Evolution off, and I'm going to scare her a bit. I'm going to go straight for my Curse right now, because I'm trying to see if I can put her in a position where I will go for endgame with my Mega Aggron and find out exactly what her main switch-in for this thing would have to be. And on that note, after seeing that Charizard X is her main answer, I figured that now would definitely not be the time to reveal my, go through with my tech. So unfortunately, that is going to force me to hard swap out, because I don't necessarily know anything about this Mega Charizard X other than Toxic itself. So on that note, I'm going to hard swap out back into my main counter, which would have to be my Rhydon. She is going to reveal Will-O-Wisp, which shows that she's dual status, which is definitely something I didn't expect in this matchup at all. But at this point in time, I have absolutely nothing stopping me from going for a Toxic, because yeah, I know for a fact that she's not going to switch her Alolan Muck in on it. So on that note, she's actually going to go out into her Hawlucha, and I absolutely missed the fact that she's Mold Breaker, because in the back of my head, it was always like, oh no, this is unburdened, what am I gonna do? So yeah, anyways, what's gonna happen now would have to be me just staying in and going for a Rock Blast, because I didn't necessarily want this thing to set up a free Swords Dance on my face, if that made any sense. Or at the same time be a set which, you know, is a Sub-Citrus Berry, which actually pops her unburden off. So yeah, this is what happens when you miss, when you don't pay attention, guys. So I'm going to go straight for a Rock Blast right now. She is obviously going to go hard out into our Alolan Muck. And you're going to see me get very lucky here, because I'm able to actually snag 4 hits on that Alolan Muck of hers, and actually force her to pop that Papa Berry off, which is, Figure Berry off. Same old shit, really. As now at this point, I don't necessarily see myself need Rhydon much, other than just going straight for an Earthquake, because I don't want to get swept by a Curse Alolan Muck or anything. I saw that happen to Leo, and I definitely don't want that shit to be happening to me, boys. So I'm going to go straight for my Earthquake right now, and that Alolan Mug is going to bite the dust, courtesy of a critical hit, which I know for a fact did not matter because Rhydon still does have a decent amount of attack to be able to knock it out. So on that note, my Rhydon is going to bite the dust, which is kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, it shouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things because, yeah, Charizard is already weakened enough to the point of no return. So here I make a bit of a misplay by choosing to go out in my Big Darius over my Infernape, as I'm actually going to go for a Psychic right now. I did my calcs, it 100% knocks out a max HP Mega Charizard X. And you're going to see me get a crit, which actually mattered here because Serene revealed after the match that her Mega Charizard X did actually happen to be especially defensive, which kind of sucks, not gonna lie. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I don't necessarily think it mattered too much because I did have my Infernape in the bag that could definitely have 1v1 the remaining of her squad. But yeah, like at that point, I obviously missed the fact that her Charizard X was, that her Hawlucha was actually Mold Breaker instead. So on that note, that's definitely a big yikes on my behalf. But either way, I'm gonna just pretty much let my Black Heart die, and now I'm gonna go straight out in my Mega Aggron. And honestly, I actually wanted to go straight for a curse and get that curse cleanup courtesy of my Mega Aggron. But unfortunately, since I was lacking time on that particular day, I had my match with her because like I had this one assignment due the very next day, which I hadn't necessarily finished fast enough. I figured that I would take the faster route and sacrifice the 3-0 to 2-0 the 3-0 victory for 2-0 victory because honestly, real life is obviously much more important than the game of mods, and I think y'all can definitely relate to that. So either way, she is going to finally pop the Z move off right now, which revealed to me that she is definitely Fightinium Z. No shit, Sherlock, as the Hawlucha is going to be surrounded by the nice and devastating aura. Surprisingly enough, I did my counts, and if I were actually able to go to +2 with my Curse Mega Aggron, her all-out pummeling would have been doing absolutely pitiful damage to me, and I would actually be able to 1v1 it after I go for a rest and then go get some nice heavy slams off courtesy of my Sleep Talk. So definitely a missed opportunity. I'm very sorry guys for not being able to get this nice deck going. I will definitely try a different week to actually make this thing work. But anyways, it's fine really because now there's nothing stopping me from going out in my Big Darius. And I'm just gonna go straight for a Psychic here, and surprisingly enough, her Hawlucha is actually going to be able to outspeed me, which I didn't expect at all because honestly, Jolly Hawlucha is a huge onset if I'm being completely honest here. And at the same time, I completely missed the fact as I was adjusting the EVs that Alakazam wasn't EV'd enough to outspeed a Jolly Max Speed Hawlucha to begin with, so that's definitely a big yikes on my behalf. But thankfully, it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things because we are able to snag a 2-0 victory against the Chicago Shaymin-Skies. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially 6-0 in the UBL. Whew. So yeah, very good game to my opponent, Serene Grace. She was very understanding throughout this entire time. She really made a lot of compromises for me to get this match done because honestly, like, I was in no position to really make any sort of sacrifices here and there, especially with the many things that are happening this week. So yeah, be sure to check out her channel, guys. She is a very genuine human being and she deserves all the praises possible. And as far as next week goes, I'm going to be having with all due respect to the other competitors, the toughest challenge yet, as I'm going to be going up against none other than my good brother, Styx of the Token Minorities, who has been on a tear himself, and whilst he has already lost 2 games, they have been arguably due to hacks itself, so I need to make sure I get my prep game on. And either way, I hope you all are looking forward to that next week because it's about to go down. So either way, thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video in any way, feel free to drop a like on this video and let me know in the comment section down below what you think is the MVP of this match, or who you think is the MVP of this match in a proper grammar term. I am very sorry for butchering the English language, and I need to stop impersonating Shady Penguin. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Push!